welcome to East Orlando. So congratulations. Everybody want to do a countdown on a count of three? Anybody else has anything else you want to say? Take your pictures now before we cut. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Bienvenidos. Welcome.
Willkommen im The Fifth Floor.
Herzlich willkommen im Fifth Floor in Avalon Park, Orlando, Florida.
Welcome to the Fifth Floor, Orlando's latest co-working space where you can connect and grow your business. Whether your business just needs an address with a virtual office, a desk, or a private office, we have an option for you. Located in the heart of downtown Avalon Park, the views can't be beat.
Our idea is to build a worldwide network of Fifth Floor.
With relationships both locally and globally, there's a place for you to connect with the people who can help you grow your business. There's a cafe to grab a cup of coffee. We even have a podcast room and a wellness room. With local and global connections, the Fifth Floor is the perfect place for you to elevate your business.
The Fifth Floor is office space and many other services, tools, contents, business relationships, global connections at your fingertip and at your size.
Dami na piątym piętru.
Selamat datang.
Jamang.
Welcome.
The Fifth Floor Orlando location includes 22 private offices, 12 dedicated desks, multiple hot desks, unlimited virtual offices, 3 conference rooms, a presentation/event room, a wellness room, a podcast room, a mail room, and a cafe. Despite the pandemic, many markets globally have shown increased demand for flexible workspace and on shorter terms.
A testimonial from Isabella Johnston.
We are ecstatic about working out of the Fifth Floor and being part of the Avalon Park community.
Welcome to Intern Whisperer Live, the show all about the future of work.
I love his energy. Every time he brings that voice, he's like commanding the show here. I think that is awesome. Thank you, Caesar. As you know, our show is all about education, innovation, and the future of work. And so today's guest is Jacqueline Seaton, who is the community manager here at the Fifth Floor Orlando. Yes. Welcome, Jacqueline. So excited.
Thank you, Isabella. Thank you for having me.
This is very significant because I am a member of the Fifth Floor.
Yes.
As I won one of those spots here in the Avalon Innovation Center. That's right. And so this has just newly opened and it is super cool here.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
I do. And last week you had what?
We had our grand opening ceremony and had a couple of hundred people here. And
we did.
Lots
all
of great
being
food.
COVID compliant.
Absolutely.
Yes. As we are also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So why don't we just go ahead and kick off? Tell us about your education, your background, where you came from, all that. I was always surprised when I was talking with you last week.
Yes, when I told you that I'm originally from Jamaica.
Yeah, didn't see that one coming.
Yes, and I moved to New York City with my family when I was very young. Mm-hmm. So I mostly grew up in New York.
You don't say New York like New York.
New York?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's okay.
I think because I have a mixture of different accents and it kind of comes out different. I absolutely love New York and I love growing up there. But I did move to Orlando very recently and I'm loving it here as well.
Yeah, no snow, right?
Yes, I love the sunshine and I went to the beach several times since I've been here, which in New York, everyone was bundled up. So they're very jealous. That's important.
It sure enough is. I know that to be true. Yeah. And I'm sure you periodically go, I would take a screenshot of my phone that says 81 degrees. What is it like up there for you?
I absolutely do that.
Yeah, just saying I would do that. So where did you go to school?
So in terms of my education, I actually have a degree in visual communication.
Oh, so what does that mean?
I really focused on fine art actually. So for a final, so I'm basically in my time not at the Fifth Floor, I'm really involved in art. visual art, written art. My daughter also goes to a performing arts school. She's a musical theater major. So there's always art around me in my house and in my life. Yeah. And
what's your favorite type of art that you do? Do you do this in your personal life? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Illustration?
Absolutely. So I love to paint. And I do expressionist paintings. I'm fortunate enough to actually sell some of my paintings.
Wow.
And I also love to write. And back in the day when I was younger, I used to do, that artsy poetry reading in the New York poetry scene and stuff like that. So it's really different from what I do here. I think that it actually kind of ties in together sometimes in terms of being a visual person.
Yeah.
It helps with marketing, staging, just also understanding, visualizing with people when it comes to their office space, for instance. So it has a little tie-in.
Oh, I think it has a lot
Yeah.
of tie-in. Now that you explained it, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
And I will say, Caesar, I know that you haven't been able to see this office. What I think I'm going to do is do a little walking tour, and I'm going to post it on my social feed because it truly does look like an interior designer. And I don't know how much of it you got to pick, but if you got to pick it, then
Yeah.
it's screaming design.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
think the design here is absolutely gorgeous.
It is
Yeah.
beautiful.
I love the colors. I love the feeling, and everything just sort of blends and flows very well. I can't take credit for most of it at all. There was a great design team, and I was able to add a few touches to it, but there was a great design team from Avalon that worked on the space.
What I like about it, we actually have my laptop. It's on top of this piece of wood that is, I would say, a petrified wood, maybe. I'm not sure. But it's a cross section of a trunk of a tree. And it's turned into this gorgeous resined tabletop that has multiple layers. I'm trying to really give it.
It's actually these pieces for the conference rooms, these river tables, I believe they're called, were actually custom made for the space. So each one is just the right size for each conference room, and it's an original actual piece of wood that's chosen just to be the right size for the space that it's going to sit in.
It is so pretty. From the wallpaper to the flooring to the actual furniture in here, it's all very comfortable to sit in, and I can just definitely be that testimony for it. So very nice, very nice. Caesar, you did the research. I'm going to let you do this next question here.
Okay, so I did a little research, and I found that you were a volunteer behind the book in New York. I found that interesting. And also, you were also an art teacher. So explain to us what was the best part of those roles and challenges that came with those experiences.
So with Behind the Book and also with the art teaching, they were both volunteer opportunities. I used to go into New York City public schools at the elementary and middle school level with these organizations to bring literature and art to the children that may have been underserved in those areas. So we used to do things like bring in authors for them to meet and discuss books.
Oh my God.
Yes, and do art projects with the children.
What is the range of the kids that were there? Were they elementary or was it K through 12?
It was elementary and middle school students. And I really loved actually working with the elementary school children the best, the little ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were always so enthusiastic about the art and so smart. That was the best part for me. I would say the only challenge was just I wish that we could all do more for them in that area because they were really hungry for it. They loved it. We loved working with them. I think that art is so important, not just for kids, for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and to bring it to them, I just feel like if there was a way to stress that it's really important and kids in school should be exposed to it.
Yeah, it definitely increases creativity that someone has. I've even read, this was a while back, I was an English major. So literature, yes, I'm really understanding what you're saying there. And I was an art wannabe. I was not exactly an artist, but I loved art so much. So a lot of my electives were all art, such as like sculpture, and then there was jewelry making, and then there was illustration, and there was painting. There was everything I could. I was trying to experience it all. Anyway, the thing about art is in the concentration camps. I remember this as a study, is that they had demonstrated even the ability to sing was something that lifted the spirits, and so was anything that they could do that was bringing something that was color into those drab areas. It's what gave them hope.
Yeah, it made a big difference.
It does.
In their, you wouldn't think that in a space like that, that anything could make a difference. But it's really powerful that you say that art can do that.
Yeah. And there's also been, I believe that there's studies also out there on how it helps individuals with mental disabilities. So art is really, really valuable across the board. We don't, it's one of the first places they cut the budget in schools, and that's really sad.
Yeah, it is. We were just talking about how the space here at the 5th floor looks, for instance, and how that look makes you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a concrete example of how the way, you know, someone has designed something and put it together artistically makes a huge difference in the way that people will come into the space and feel, and to know you can work there in that type of environment. Feels beautiful, as opposed to if you were just in a plain utilitarian space. You know? So yeah, it's important for all types of environments.
I agree. Some whiteboards. I don't know if you guys have plans for whiteboards or a wall that I can write on. That would be great. You know, I like that. I like that there's the glass windows. And so if I could use that even as a whiteboard, you know, that would be good.
Well, Isabella, we have a couple of whiteboards.
Yay.
Yes. The one in the large presentation room is on wheels, so we can bring it to any room that you're working in.
Okay.
Don't worry.
That's good to hear. Very good to hear. So I'm going to go with the next question. So we were doing some research also on co-working, and we were looking at what it looks like for the future. We're holding that question for later in the show here, but co-working. Why did you choose co-working? Because you went from, you know, truly art and, you know, the value that it has in education.
Yeah.
How did you end up in co-working as an industry?
I think I didn't so much end up in co-working as an industry, but I ended up working in that space because of my background in management and operations. So I actually started working when I was in high school, when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And I started working at Barnes & Noble because my aunt was a manager there. So I used to be a part-time cashier at Barnes & Noble. And then by the time I was in my 20s, going to school, I became a manager. So I've been sort of managing something since I was in my 20s. I stayed at Barnes & Noble for almost a decade, and I had a daughter and moved abroad for a while and so forth.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. When I came back to New York City, I wanted to go back into my managerial role, if you will. And then I started to work in a co-working space as a director of operations in that industry. So
is this in New York?
That's in New York. I was at a more boutique, small co-working space. And kind of like the 5th floor, they were new to the industry as well. They needed me to kind of build their operational systems from the ground up a lot of the times. And I was there for a while. Then I moved to a larger company where I then branched out into a lot of sales. I was still doing operations, but the sales were a lot more of what I did in that company. And I was there for almost a decade as well. Then I came here to the 5th floor.
Very nice. Very nice. So the background of sales definitely transitioned into this role. And it's really good that you have experience working with startups, because we're always moving a mile a minute, you know, like a second, and probably a mile a second, honestly, is how I feel it is. And there's always a lot of, oh, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. And so being able to, it's like herding cats, I would think, for you.
Herding cats?
Yeah, like you're having a bunch of cats and they're running all over the place. And how do you get those cats to go in one direction? You've got all of these people here.
Well, I think not only being in co-working or having that experience in co-working, but also just being from New York. Things going a mile a minute and multitasking and taking, you know, a lot of moving parts and getting them straight ahead is something that, you know, we're just absolutely used to. So I think with those two components, I don't find it too hard.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's super interesting. Co-working, and now I have some experience in co-working also, and I've shared that with you before. So I work out of 4 co-working areas, actually. Avalon is truly my favorite because it is so beautiful and it's new and all of those fun things. It's really, really nice. It's also very easy to park, you know, here.
That is true.
As opposed to sometimes downtown. And then, there's just like everything. I can actually go and visit door to door to door to potentially, my customers. So
Yeah.
I like that very, very much. It gets me out, gets me some exercise, allows me to be a part of the community a little bit easier than some of the other places. So, I don't know just the people in this space, but I can also know the people in the neighborhood. So I like that Avalon does that.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Avalon. And I think one of the things that would set the fifth floor apart as a co-working space, that it's part of this community.
Yeah.
So when you're here, you have this space, but as soon as you step outside, you have so many businesses right there within walking distance, so many services, restaurants, and a community of people that all get to know each other and work together.
Was it the same in New York, or would it be different? I visited New York once, and I can tell you I understood once I got there, I always heard this expression, it's the city that never sleeps. And I went, how is that even possible? I don't even get it. But once I got there, I truly felt the energy of the city. And I went, oh my God, I do feel the heartbeat. I understand everything that they're talking about now.
Yeah.
And it just it never stopped. And it was so diverse. There was every world was represented, or every country was represented in some area of New York. And so I honestly, people could tell I was a tourist because I was like this all the time, looking up at every single skyscraper there was. And I was there for a week, but I don't think I had near enough time. Yeah. So going back to that question that I originally stated was, is co-working the same? Is it that sense of community? I don't know. Is it? You can tell me that.
Well, I think a lot of it depends on that particular co-working space that you're in.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. If you're in the right space where it's really fostered and people have a great mindset and the staff at the space have that type of, idea to foster that, then absolutely, yes. And I mean, we've only been open for a very short time, but you can already feel that sense here in the fifth floor. I mean, when we had our grand opening, for instance, because of the Avalon Park community, some people that are here as members and people that came from outside, they might know each other or at least know of each other, or at the very least want to get to know each other and see not only personally, but if there's a way for business collaboration. So I would say it depends on the space. And for this space, I really see that happening.
Yeah, I know that's true because it was pre-opening and I was here and I was learning about, okay, so this is where I'm in a hot desk and, here's where it is. But I was seeing all of the other people that were coming in from, my cohort, and you were going, oh, this is exactly what I love seeing. Everybody's like talking to each other like right away. And
Absolutely.
So it made it exciting.
Yeah. You asked if it's kind of like New York. That's kind of the reason why I also live here in Avalon Park. And that's one of the reasons why I chose it. Because you are able to just go outside from your co-working space where you would have some collaboration and still have everything within walking distance and have that community and just feel like you're in that spot where you don't have to necessarily drive or look far for what you need.
Now, I know that this is going to be one of those controversial topics.
Uh-oh.
So, New York pizza. What makes New York pizza so much better than any other place? People tell me it's the water. How is the water any different, honestly?
Well, I can say that the water in New York is delicious.
Does it taste different than the water here?
It does.
Really?
That was one of the first things I noticed when I moved here, that the water is different.
Does it taste more like filtered water, like bottled water?
Yeah, the water in New York, it tastes and smells very pure. Yeah, you don't feel bad about drinking it from the tap at all.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if that's why the pizza is good, but I think the pizza is good because of the crust, the thin crust, and then there's a lot of cheese on the pizza.
Yeah, that sounds like pizza. I'm gonna throw Pizza Hut, a little bone here.
Yeah.
I like Pizza Hut pizza because I get the thin crust that's virtually paper, and then it's got tons of cheese on it, and it's got the cheesy grease, and I'm going, this is the pizza I love.
And then you can get it just straight out the oven, right out that pizza oven.
Yeah.
You're making me feel a little bit like
yeah. So I guess you're gonna have people send you pizza from New York here.
Yeah.
Yeah, for your birthday. When's your birthday?
December.
Okay, so I'll have to remember that. Maybe I can find a pizza place that will send me a pizza here for you.
I have the website for you.
Okay. See, she's already helping me with her gift. How awesome is that? That's great. Okay. So anyway, back on topic here. So you did tell us about the 5th floor, but
Yeah.
gosh, there's a history there. And I know the original one is in Switzerland, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Did they give you any kind of a briefing about them? Because I know some of it. I can probably fill in some gaps.
well, when it comes to the 5th floor, the original 5th floor is
Basel,
is
right?
in Basel, Switzerland, and that's because our founder of Avalon Park is from Switzerland, and their location in Switzerland is actually on the 5th floor.
Ah.
Okay, but of course, it was a great success, and so it's been expanded over here to Orlando. Still called the 5th floor, but we're actually located on the 2nd floor.
Yeah, now that's a
Yeah.
fun fact. So anybody that's listening to our show, they need to know that when they come to the 5th floor in Orlando, it's on the 2nd floor of the building, but we'll know that if you listen to the show if you mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really good.
Mhm.
What was interesting to me is that the 5th floor in Basel,
Mhm.
they have their own podcast, and it is the 5th floor, and it's on NPR.
Mm.
So I don't know if anybody else knew that. I listened to it. I can't honestly remember what day of the week is because all my days I'm a startup. So all my days are the same, but I like listening to it because they have different types of accents in there, and I find that
Yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it.
The 5th floor is very international.
It sure
Yeah.
is. Where are
Yeah.
there other locations?
So we are slated to open in Puerto Rico in a couple of months.
San Juan,
So,
right?
Yeah, it's San Juan, Puerto Rico, and there's a couple of locations in Singapore and I believe Sydney, Australia as well.
Yeah. So that's very interesting about the 5th floor. Thank you for sharing a bit about their history. Why did Bea, and I
Yes.
know that is our founder here of Avalon, the community, why did he choose this particular location out of all of the other? He has other locations, right? There's Wesley and Jacksonville. He has communities in those areas, but why did he choose Orlando? Do you know?
I think that Orlando is really ripe for co-working. Also, because of what's happening with COVID, here in this tight-knit community, it was found out that a lot of people now have to work from home, and it's just, a great addition to the community so that they'll be able to not just work from home or partially work from home, and that they'll have a place to come and work because you can do a private office here, but you can also do just a desk or a day rental or a virtual office. And so it was really a way not only to get on the cusp of the popularity, the rising popularity of co-working in this city, but also to offer this amenity to the people here in Avalon Park who are looking for that type of space where they can come out and collaborate and find a place to work. I know that it's great to work from home and you have a lovely home in Avalon, but at the same time,
I personally like to separate, work from home.
Yeah.
And so when I come into a work environment, I know I'm there to work and I don't have the distractions of a home. And so personally, that's why I like it. Secondly, I would think that still, even if you live in this community, it's a way to get out, and you've got all of these great conference rooms.
Yes.
We're in one right now. You've got a podcast room, conference rooms. You have other services to offer than just those, I'm sure, for people that would like to work in a co-working space. And it does have the safety factor here.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just need to get out and be in that professional environment and have access to those types of things like the meeting rooms and the presentation room, the podcast room.
But you have printers, I know, and you have, concierge service here, and you can get mail here. And let me just keep going through the list because I love co-working because of all of those amenities. But it's also 24/7 if you have, an office.
Absolutely.
I think one of the best benefits would be in this community is being able to be in here, see the fireworks go off from your office and looking out at the fireworks.
Oh, that's a great idea. There are some great views here of the Avalon Lake. So when those fireworks are happening, this would be an awesome spot. I think I'm going to take you up on that next year.
I'm going to tell you. So when 4th of July is coming
Yes.
up, I know my membership is 8 to 6, but I'm going to say, okay, 4th of July, it's going to be worth those extra hours to be able to be here after hours just to see the fireworks.
Just to see the fireworks.
Yeah.
And you know something that actually brings up a little thing I want to mention, all the natural light that's in the space, which is such a great thing to have when you're working. All these big windows and the views outside with the sunshine coming in. That's something we don't have in New York.
No.
Yes. It's just absolutely gorgeous and great for working.
And you're in air conditioning. So, in Florida, we have so much heat. So being in an air conditioned space, that's a big plus versus we're not in the cold. Yeah. So we talked about a lot of the services that the 5th floor offers. Is there anything that we forgot? I'm not sure.
Well, you mentioned that you can get mail here, for instance. So we have packages like virtual office packages.
Oh yeah. What is virtual office?
So a virtual office basically means that you'll be able to use this as your business address. You'll be able to receive and send out mail from the address. And then at the same time, you'll have access if you need it to rent meeting rooms or the podcast room or even a desk occasionally. And there are people that have virtual offices that are maybe out of state, or we have a couple already that are overseas, but you need a business presence in the US or here in Orlando, and you can use a virtual office for that.
I'll tell our listeners the other advantage to that is when you're trying to get your business on the map with Google, you need to have a real office address. So being able to have it set up so that you may not even get your mail here, but you need to have a legit office that you can have on your Google map, that's going to be a huge advantage.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know because I had to do that. So these are all of the reasons why I can sit here and go, oh yeah. And I will say, because I'm looking at one of the monitors, every one of your conference rooms has really big monitors. It has super nice technology in here. But you also have these desks so that they raise and you can have a standing desk versus sitting, and you have ergonomical, comfortable chairs.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw all of these things out here. How am I doing on the sales side?
You are doing amazing.
Okay, good. Good. Maybe I'll get like 5 extra hours or something, or I can come here for free on the night of the 4th of July. So I'll throw that one out there as my wish list. Okay, so let us see. We talked about the services. So I took away your question, Caesar, just so you know.
So how does real estate play into co-working?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have to have a real estate license?
Yeah.
You don't have to have I do have a real estate license, but you don't have to have a real estate license to do co-working. How does real estate play into it? So we're not doing, showings of houses or large commercial spaces. Basically, the spaces that we're showing in co-working are smaller, but it's kind of the same concept where you need to, connect with the person that's looking for space, listen to them, and bring them to the spaces that may suit their needs perfectly, so that they'll be able to have the right, space, not like a house, not like a storefront, but that office space that suits them, or that plan that suits them. That's kind of how it ties in.
Yeah. Do you have to have, would you say that a residential or a commercial business real estate license? Which would be better?
Commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so too. Now, later in the show, we also talk about like what are the job opportunities in this type of an environment. And so I would think that having some type of a real estate license was helpful, but I'm sure there's other things that you might recommend. But we'll hold on to that one too. What do you think the differences are between co-working versus a traditional office?
There's a lot of difference, and one of the main ones is that, as we said, there's the spaces that you're going to take are going to be a bit smaller, but then you have access to all the common areas that you wouldn't, in a traditional space, you'd have to manage and maintain all those spaces yourself. And here in a co-working space, it's all done for you. So you can just go to your office and manage your business. And then everything around you is getting taken care of. And that also eliminates the overhead that you would normally have in a traditional space, for a kitchen, for a meeting room, even for copy paper. All of that is already taken care of. And you don't have to staff for a receptionist or a manager like myself. So it's just all in one package for you.
So I'm going to also say this is a really state of the art, and we didn't talk about this either. The doors. How do you get into your office? Like, let's talk about that too.
So that's what I like to call our Star Trek feature. Yes, we have the Lockley locks. So the locks are all electronic, and you'd be given a particular code to be able to get into your office 24/7. You know, no traditional keys or anything like that. You're just going in and opening the door with your electronic lock.
So is it like a keypad? You know your code?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's really, really fancy. So you don't have to worry about losing a key or anything like that. So I like that idea also. So we're going to take just a minute to be able to acknowledge our sponsors.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat 5 Studios.
So you were talking about like getting into your office and like the keypad, like using technology. I wanted to ask, what if someone forgets like their password, like the way like to open a door? What's the troubleshooting situation like in this? Like, what would you have to do?
So they can just contact me or the other staff here at the 5th floor, and we'll be able to reset it for them.
Can you do it remotely?
From an app on our phone.
Oh, that's so nice.
So even if it's, the weekend or something and you need help, we'll be able to help with that.
They become the emergency contact for everybody then.
Yeah.
There is something I wanted to ask. It is another perk that's in here on the 1st floor. What's going in on the 1st floor so people know?
Well, something that I'm really excited about. We're going to have the Avalon Marketplace downstairs where we're going to have 9 food vendors. There's going to be beer hall, grocery. We're going to have the Louisiana Kitchen, Rosa's Coffee, to name a couple. So it's going to be a beautiful, brand new eatery space that is also going to be tied into the 5th floor, where our members will be able to order catering from there, or have delivery come up right from the 1st floor from the marketplace.
Very nice. I hope that they have something. There was a woman I had met, and she does keto brownies, I think, or something like that. I don't know, but it was keto friendly, and I was going, that sounds super good, because it sounds like it's less calories in my head. Yeah. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, I'm not sure. We did some research about what the future of co-working industry is going to look like. And there's been so much press. There was speculation in Orlando Business Journal here that the co-working space would show like a 50% loss, that people are enjoying working from home. And so now there's a 50% loss of rental space in the downtown area. Now in downtown Orlando, we have to pay for parking. It's not, easily accessible. We do have Sunrail where we can go into the office there, but it's, again, it's on a certain track, east to west. So there's advantages and disadvantages I can see. I think that co-working, my personal prediction is that it will be going like crazy. It should do well, because of the opportunity that you mentioned earlier. I like to separate my home life from it. And one of the things I built into my company budget for Intern Pursuit is the ability to co-work, have co-working in like San Francisco, in Boston, in New York, and then also in Florida. So that way we can go to places. I love that the 5th floor is also international. That's part of my expansion plan. So I could go to other countries and, visit schools there or businesses there. So I feel like there's going to be a huge advantage. What do you think that the future holds for co-working?
Well, I think the future holds for co-working right after COVID, for instance, begins to ease up on us.
Yeah.
We might be in a dip now, but we're going to see co-working really grow because of the fact that we found out that it's a great option for people to be able to work from home sometimes and to come into the office sometimes, to do some work over hybrid meetings, for instance, with Zoom and some people in person, and that larger companies are able to downsize to smaller spaces or to have offshoots in smaller spaces. And that all these types of options, this time for us has really highlighted that for people. So I think that's one of the things that's going to really change the face of working when we come out of, maybe into 2022, for instance. And co-working is coming out more in terms of spaces like Orlando or even in Texas or other cities where traditional space was more well known. In New York, for instance, is well established. There's a lot of different co-working spaces. There's plenty of competition because of just the nature of size, where in New York, everything is more compact and everything in a state like Florida is more spread out. But now people recognize the value of consolidating space.
I agree. I think one of the other advantages of co-working, again, is as people, we're meant for socialization. And I think that people are craving that because they're tired of being at home. And so the ability to come in and be in my own office, little cocoon, if you will, that's going to be an advantage. But I can also come out here and still go and ask a question of one of my fellow, we'll say it's, I'm going to go ahead and say CompWise, because she deals in legal issues. I would find that really refreshing to be able to come out and say, hey, I have a question about, workers' comp. Can you help me answer this kind of a question? And I love the diversity of not just the businesses that are here, but the sizes of the businesses. And I know that one of the things at another co-working space that I did visit, that Salesforce had presence in as many of those places as possible. And so I think that even in that bigger sense, you could experience where it could be Salesforce that says, oh, we want to have an office here. So you could end up with an international company having a place where any of their employees can come and drop in. It may not be specific to a person like what we typically have here, but it could be, like, okay, I need a place for employees to come and drop in. Did you guys build that into the possibility?
The great thing about this space and co-working space is that you can kind of participate in the space to the level that you need for your business. So if you wanted to have a private space that you want to have 24/7 access and you have a few people that are working, full-time Monday to Friday, that's a possibility. But if you wanted to do a combination where you just need a desk to come in 2-3 days a week, or even a couple of hours, or if you wanted to just come and use the space for once a month or once period, you have that capability. So we'll have different levels that you can scale to your business.
That sounds really good. What did you find for us, Caesar?
I found that co-working spaces have become the expected, preferable workplace of today's workforce. This is now truer than ever, especially as more companies shift to permanently remote work options following the coronavirus pandemic. Companies adapting hybrid work models are incorporating flexible workspace solutions into their real estate strategies in order to cater to the needs of remote workers across different cities and countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And notice the key word for me was countries, being part of the fifth floor that does have international presence. I think that is going to be very appealing because I don't necessarily know where I could go in, we'll say San Juan. I've never been there, but now that I know that there would be a presence, that is really comforting for me because I don't have to sit in maybe a coffee shop. I can actually be in an office that feels more private, professional, definitely private, because I don't want to be on a phone call, talking with somebody next to somebody else that could be potentially a competitor or who knows what, it's just nice. It's really nice. So was there any other fact or statistic that we were going to share? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jacqueline actually mentioned this. Reports have found that suburban co-working spaces stand to win the most in post-pandemic world. As remote work is adapted, many are choosing to leave big cities in favor of more suburban and affordable areas. So I think that's true. That's spot on.
Yeah, and those were our latest. We did like research that would be just like a month old. And so it looks really good for the co-working world.
Yes.
Yeah, so, that is a good investment here for the people that are in Avalon and also for Bayot. He made a good decision there. All right, so one of our questions are, what would a typical day look like for an intern to work here in your business? Now, I know you don't have interns yet, but you do have 2 staff members here. So if you were to have an intern, or maybe you had interns in your other co-working place, what would that look like? What would you do?
I think that when it comes to co-working, it has kind of a 2-prong situation where an intern would be able to learn about operations on one end and about sales and marketing on the other end. So they'd be able to kind of go through the full life cycle of getting a member into the space in terms of learning about our marketing, our ads, our sales, doing tours, and then following up until, working through contracts. Once the member did join us or whatever type of plan they, joined us for, then they would learn how to resolve issues, move in and move out, and just.
Do you anticipate events?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We'll also be working on lots of events throughout the year here at the fifth floor. We're looking to not only be a great place to work, but, a great place for the community to gather in terms of networking and also some cultural. And for me, there's definitely going to be some interest in some artistic events.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, I'm also really interested in hearing from the members what they'd like to have in the space in terms of events. So that's definitely something that we want to have in the space.
Ooh, I have one I'd like to propose. I'd like to facilitate it. Creating a vision board.
Oh, yes, that sounds, I'm signing up for that one.
Okay, great. Yeah. I have my own vision board, but I would love to do like a monthly vision board type of a workshop here, just for the fun, just for the people in the community, just to be able to help people get in that innovation space.
Yes.
Inside of their head.
Yeah. And I think that's a great idea at this time when people are also thinking about what they want to do next in life, because a lot has changed for people over the past year. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, well, I'm glad you like it. So then, yeah, it's definitely going to tie into the art side.
Yes.
I think I'll bring in my vision board next time I'm here, which is, I think, supposed to be Thursday. So anyway, when we do the vision boarding, that's going to be a lot of fun. But I also have Asana workshops, other things that I think that people in the community might like to know. And Asana is for project management and team communication, self-serving, little promo right here. Okay, anyway, back to this. I'm glad you shared what an intern would be able to do. And events are key because many hospitality and event management, that's what they fall under. And this is always going to be a really great place for them to be able to get some job skills.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be an opportunity for them to kind of learn from both ends of not only, operations and sales, but also planning events here with us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. One of the things that I do is I take a little pause just to give our employers, our listening audience, which is predominantly business people, a little tip of the week, because I am the Intern Whisperer. And so the tip of the week is the Department of Labor has 7 criteria that have to be in compliance to be able to have an unpaid intern work with you. So we're looking at the criteria number 4. And I always like to read it straight from that particular document so that I'm not using any other words. So it's the extent to which the internship accommodates the intern's academic commitments by corresponding to the academic calendar. So what that means for the average layperson is a student that is going to be an intern here, we'll say at Avalon, that should be tied to a 3-month semester, because that's how long our semesters are here in Florida. A semester could be 3 to 4 months. A student would come in for 3 to 4 months to work in an unpaid capacity still, but it has to be tied to their majors. So you would not want to have a graphic designer come in and do work that is event management, because that's not what they're there for. Right. We would not take a video student and have them do data entry. And I'm using those as 2 specific examples for our listening audience. All right, so that is the tip of this week. So we're going back to this next question. What is the best mentoring advice that you received or you would like to share with our listening audience that really helped you anywhere in your life professionally?
I would say the best mentoring advice I received in terms of work is to remember that you spend a lot of time at work.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe you spend a lot more time at work than anywhere else. So one of the most important things you can do for yourself and the people around you is to make your work life just as balanced and, dare I say, as beautiful, happy as you can. When you come to work, of course, you're trying to achieve goals and you're looking for your direct deposit at the end of the week. You can make work a place that is a great place to come to if you have the right attitude, and that's very important.
Yeah, I think so too. You have to make sure that you also love what it is that you're doing, because people can tell if you don't love it. And at the end of the day, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, because often these little tips are for people that are either entering the workforce or they're transitioning from one area, from an industry or a job into another one. Just make sure that you don't feel like you have to know everything. Ask lots of questions. And then secondly, just make sure that you love what you're doing. And I don't know about you, but when I was trying to figure out my career path, I sat there and went, well, I like reading, I like research, and I like writing. So I chose English as my major. And it has never failed me because you can do anything. Like you said, you did art. And that impacts everybody's life. Yeah. We now go into what are some co-working jobs that people would be able to look for. And so Caesar did this one. We have community manager, an office manager, community associate. I'm pretty sure you can speak to those things, but I'm going to let Caesar go ahead and share the community manager. How close does it align with the people you either hired or your role? So go ahead and share this one.
They are generally responsible for managing and handling communications in both directions. Community managers are involved in various activities such as communication, PR, social media, events, and content creation. The average salary is $57,321.
So I don't know if that would be the salary here in Florida. You know, they're saying average across the country, which is fair. But do you think as a community manager, that's just solely part of the responsibilities? Because what is your official title here? Are you a community manager?
My official title is community manager, and I would say that those duties that you describe are definitely part of what I do. Community manager also means that you're kind of the liaison between all the members and the owner of the space. It also means that you are there to work with people and make sure that everything is running smoothly and everyone is as happy as possible, that you can create a space that feels like a well-run
machine.
I was looking for another word. And to also, also the goal is to make sure that you're bringing in new members in terms of all the different plans that are offered here and to keep all the office spaces occupied as well.
Office manager. To me, when I think about an office manager, I typically think of what I see him in like a law firm or very high professional organizations, accounting, maybe an architect, maybe construction also. Doesn't have to be extremely high professional. Construction, I always think of it as a little bit more relaxed. Everybody's in jeans and t-shirts. So it says that they essentially ensure the smooth running of an office day to day. There's not as much focus on events. They definitely are making sure that the office is running as main responsibilities. And it says it's 83.2. That's a pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. But I think that's going to be, a larger space than maybe a co-working space. It's going to be a pretty good size firm or business for the most part.
Or if there's in terms of co-working space that would pertain to maybe a space that has a lot of different locations and you need someone that's going to direct all the administrative and operational duties throughout the different locations.
I would agree with that too. How about community associate? You want to take care of that one?
Yeah. Community associate. They work to fulfill many networking, PR, and community engagement duties on behalf of a brand or organization. As a community associate, your job consists of managing projects, developing effective outreach campaigns to increase awareness of a brand, service, or product, and tracking management engagement. The average salary is $46,409.
And so I think a community manager and a community associate seem to be merged together, I think, in this type of role that you have, because, that says, member, what was it? Somewhere
outreach.
Yeah, managing projects and then member outreach for the campaigns, where it's not just in the previous one, it was about activities and communications. One seems more outward and this last one seems more people focused, I think.
So definitely a community manager and a community associate, those titles kind of tie in together because a community manager is also involved in the branding and marketing and advertising of the space. And a community associate would kind of be the one that would mainly focus on that, while the community manager would kind of have different spheres that they would need to distribute themselves to.
Gotcha, yeah.
71.5% of workers that used co-working prior to the pandemic plan to return to it. The Instant Group forecasts flexible workspace supply growth of over 21% in 2021. There's still a need for physical work environment. From onboarding new members of staff to collaboration, some things often just work better in an office. Inner cities have become the most popular location type to date in 2020, with a 52% share of demand. Despite a slowdown in growth, research from the past year shows that the co-working industry will come out alive and strong following the COVID-19 pandemic. Specifically, reports have found that suburban co-working spaces stand to win the most in a post-pandemic world. As remote work is adopted, many are choosing to leave big cities in favor of a more suburban and affordable areas.
Hard to believe we're at the end of our show here. So how can our listeners contact you? Do you want to share your website, your phone number, email? What is it that you'd like to share with our audience?
Sure, absolutely. You can see us on social media. Everything is at
Ooh,
the Fifth
which one?
Floor. You can reach out to us on social media at Instagram or Facebook at the Fifth Floor, or on our website, thefifthfloor.us/en for English, because we're an international company.
Yeah.
You can reach me at Jacqueline at thefifthfloor.com.
Ooh, spell your name.
It's JACQUELINE, and that's the Fifth Floor with 5th.com.
Yep. And when we also share this in our audience, be sure to check our hashtags, because you'll be able to see that very special link there for their social channels, as well as how you can connect with Jacqueline. Anyway, so Jacqueline, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for having me, Isabella. And this was an amazing opportunity to talk about the Fifth Floor and to talk to you guys. Thank you.
So Steve, thanks for being on our show again. I always find you to be a really knowledgeable expert in a number of topics. So what I'd like to know is, what do you think about co-working spaces? What do you think that future of it looks like before COVID, now after COVID? How do you think it's all going to pan out?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast. And regarding the future of co-working spaces, I really believe that things will go back to normal. It may take time. Some people will be more sensitive to being around other people, but if you have done multiple Zoom calls, you realize that there are things that you cannot communicate through Zoom that you can very easily communicate in person. And to build culture and to build an organization, you really at some point need to come together with people.
I agree. I find such value in that even inside of a company, you have community, and community can be expanded. I have loved being a part of Starter Studios co-working space. And just for our listeners to know, co-working in the world of startup is where there are tables. I'm sitting across from somebody else. I'm not in an office. And I am sitting next, and I can go over to somebody right next to me and say, hey, I have a question about sales, or turn to the other person next to me and go, I have a question about software development. It was so wonderful to be able to turn around and just talk to this giant group of people that had this shared vision of, let's build something and make it great.
Yeah. And what I would say is, I understand that the people coming into the workforce may be more comfortable with communicating through technology, but I can tell you that you're not a real person to somebody until you meet them in person and actually shake their hand. There's something very important about in person, and you can develop much deeper relationships with people if you take the time and you take the trip.
Yes, I agree totally. So that was before COVID. We've talked about even after COVID, but do you think that the co-working industry is going to rebound, that more people will go back into those settings?
Oh yeah, I do. I think that there are some things that co-working may need to transform to make itself attractive, but people love beautiful spaces and people like to be around people. The co-working spaces that work are very well designed for people to gather and to come together and provide a very pleasant environment. Those that are kind of warehousing of people, those weren't successful before and they won't be successful after.
Well, I'm going to invite you to come down to the 5th floor and come check this one out. As you well know, I'm in the Avalon Park Group's Innovation Center, and the 5th floor is a global brand. It is based out of Basel, Switzerland. They have locations in San Juan, Singapore, Sydney, Australia, and now Orlando, and they are expanding. It is so beautifully designed. It is amazing. The flow of the site is really, really lovely. And it does have a lot of high-tech features such as biometrics. You have to put your fingerprint to get into your office, right on there. So really cool features, but I'll invite you down there so you can check it out for sure.
Sure. Love to.
But we are also looking at one more thing before we take leave of this. We, as a part of the Orlando community, embrace co-working. What do you think? You've been visiting some of the other co-working spaces. Are they more like offices, or are they really having a sense of community in there? Without dropping names, we'll just leave it that way.
I think that once you get beyond a certain size, you do need some level of privacy. Business involves trade secrets, intellectual property. And so you may be in a larger space and you may not need a lot for your own, and you're fine with sharing common areas. But I do think there's this combination or mix. The completely open floor plans are not as attractive for people. If you're sitting in the middle of a museum, you're not necessarily comfortable. So you need places that you can go for privacy. And when your organization gets above 10 people, you probably need some kind of a space that is just specifically dedicated and secured for your employees. That can exist and does exist in co-working spaces.
Yeah, and making sure that the offices are, I would say, relatively soundproof, because nothing is more frustrating than being in a space where I can actually hear what somebody else is saying. The walls are so paper
Yeah,
thin.
and some co-working spaces are by train lines or by construction. So when you have a lot of noise in the environment, it makes it difficult to concentrate for your employees.
Yeah, it sure does. So last question, what do you think co-working will look like? You showed me something earlier today, and it was with holograms. Do you think that co-working will have that type of technology so people would feel like they're in that
I
space?
think that travel can evolve, and if it's an experience that gives you the same experience as being there, there's volumetrics and there's hologram technology that is making it so that people can actually be in a room 2,000 miles away from where they physically are. So if you have something like that where you don't, when you're looking around, it's not like you don't have to wear goggles, you're actually in the same room with the people. That could be something that would truly revolutionize either co-working or travel for business.
Thanks so much. I appreciate your insight.
You're welcome. Thank you again.
And just so our listeners know, Steve is somebody I pull in because he is a wealth of knowledge on a number of topics, industry, and also trending things like holograms. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also give a special shout out to Cat 5 Studios that produces our show, and also for Caesar, who is our associate producer intern, and our video and auditing team, Steve Neese, Ashley Gonzalez, and Nayla Ely. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.